Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're sitting comfortably with your cup of tea and your Kit Kat and you're ready for our introduction to T-levels this afternoon. My name is Vicky Illingworth. I'm principal here at Crawley, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Emma and James, who are going to start off the session for us. We just need to take Emma and James off mute and then we'll be with you. Perfect.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we're waiting just for a few more people to join before we proceed. So welcome to T-levels, the next T-level qualification. This is an introduction to T-levels and transition programmes presented by Vicky Illingworth, Principal of Crawley College, James Waters, T-level Development Manager, and myself, Emma Rook, Industry Placement Officer.
Okay, so today, as part of our presentation, we'll be covering the following objectives. What are T-levels and how are they structured? Who are they for? Level 3 choices, post-16 and progression opportunities. Transition programmes. And the rollout of T-levels. Next slide, please. I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Vicky, who's going to talk a little bit about T-levels.
Thank you, James. I had the opportunity today on the session just to say welcome to Chichester College Group, welcome particularly to Crawley, which is where I am in the rain this afternoon. I hope you're all keeping safe and dry. T-levels are a key part of our curriculum landscape across Chichester College Group, and we're delivering on 2 campuses for this academic year, and James and Emma will share a little bit more about our plans for progression. It's really important to us that we deliver high quality technical and vocational training opportunities for our young people to get the skills, qualifications, confidence and resilience they need for their progression into university or into the employment landscape locally. We know currently across West Sussex that we have a changing landscape, and the impact of COVID has been quite significant in a variety of different locations. And I've just come off a call with JCP, who've been talking about the increase of youth unemployment between the ages of 16 and 24. So the opportunities we're able to provide for learners from level 1 through to level 3 to give them qualifications for their progression to secure employment is going to be increasingly important. We recognise that T-levels have a valuable part of that and see them as a real kind of key plank of our curriculum strategy moving forward. We think they're going to help us support raising aspirations for our young people, increase social mobility, and give them the opportunity to study in a way that hasn't been done previously. And James and Emma will give some more details to that later. Working across the group, students who elect to study our T-levels will be very well supported. We've structured the tutorial programme to enable us to be able to develop the study skills they need alongside T-level study, and that will give them the opportunity to develop the confidence to be able to take those skills and that knowledge, technical knowledge, into the workplace when they complete their placements as they move forward. Placements have been impacted slightly by the COVID situation, but we've got some really exciting green shoots and employer work that we're doing. And we're really hoping that that takes us through the next couple of years and gives the students who are currently enrolled the opportunities to be really successful. So this afternoon is about finding out more about T-levels, and I hope we're going to take you through some slides to be able to do that, but also understand that they're just one pathway within the qualification structures we offer. The existing BTEC qualifications, technical certificates, apprenticeship options and A-level options are still there as progression pathways across the group. And today's about sharing with you how this pathway fits in so that we can provide the best information, advice and guidance for our young people to make informed choices about their next steps to their success and their dream goals. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'm sure we'll be able to answer them at the end. I think Rachel's going to facilitate that conversation, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Hopefully this is going to give you the key nuggets of information you need to be able to provide that advice and guidance for your young people. So I'm going to hand back to James and Emma, and they're going to take us through the next few slides. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vicky. So what are T-levels? T-levels are new 2-year technical qualifications, which have been designed with employers to give students the skills they need to progress into an occupation they would like to specialise in. They've been developed as an alternative to A-levels and will give students real experience of the workplace by combining classroom study, practical learning and an industry placement, which will be a minimum of 45 days. T-levels are full-time courses. As you can see on your screen, 80% of the time that the student spends will be in the classroom on the college grounds, and 20% of the rest of the course duration will be spent in the workplace. These qualifications have been developed in collaboration with employers and businesses, so you can be assured that they will give students the knowledge and the skills that will prepare them for the world of work, and with the experience that they gain from their industry placement, this will really help them when applying for future opportunities to start their career. In terms of the structure of the T-level, I'm going to talk about the technical qualification. So T-level courses will include the following compulsory elements. So as you can see, we've got core content, which will include all the core theory, concepts and skills for an industry area. We also have some other requirements, which includes the employer set project. And as part of our delivery model, this will be covered predominantly in the first year of the study programme. And then as students go on to pick their specialism in the second year, they'll be focusing on their specialist skills and knowledge for an occupational career. An industry placement is also included, which Emma will talk about in a bit more detail shortly. And there will be a minimum standard of English and maths embedded throughout the qualification. I'm just going to hand you over to my colleague.
Thank you, James. Yes, the industry placement with an external employer is a compulsory part of the T-level qualification. This will focus on developing the practical and technical skills required for the occupation. As James mentioned, these must last a minimum of 315 hours, which equates to approximately 45 days and 750 hours for childcare. Students can either complete their placement as a block, day release, or a mixture of these. Now, this might sound a little bit daunting, but work taster activities up to 35 hours relevant to the student's chosen pathway can also be counted towards the total hours. This could include job shadowing or visits to employers. In addition, part-time work can also count towards the hours as long as the job is occupationally related to their chosen pathway and the same learning objectives are met. Every student and employer will be allocated an industry placement officer whose role is to support them with every aspect of the placement, from preparing the student with a sound knowledge of essential employability skills to assisting the employer with all the necessary paperwork, including health and safety checks. Prior to the placement, an agreement will be signed by the student, the employer, and the industry placement officer, clearly outlining the expectations. During the placement, the students will be monitored with both mid and end point reviews to ensure that the essential employability skills and technical learning objectives are being met. We will use these opportunities to check the students' well-being, ensuring that they're not being overworked and that they're still happy in their placement. This is especially important when a student is on a block placement and is not in college on a regular basis. T-levels are an inclusive qualification whereby SEND students may use on-site facilities for up to 105 hours, completing the rest with an external employer. This is done so that the student will be able to increase work readiness and confidence. Now, with COVID at the forefront of all of our minds, we should mention that there has been a COVID-19 flexibility policy has been put into place for a reduction in hours in extenuating circumstances for childcare, as has the availability for students to apply for an extension on their industry placement. We will continue to work with the DfE and be guided by the government with regards to placements, but we're ever hopeful that this is the start of an industry and education working together for tomorrow's workforce. I'll hand you back to James. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. So now we're going to look at the specifics with regards to grading and certification. So students who complete their T-level will receive an overall grade of pass, merit, distinction or distinction star. They will get a nationally recognised certificate which will show their overall grade and a breakdown of what they've achieved. And this will be broken down into the following sections. So there'll be a separate grade, as you can see at the top of this slide, for the core component, which will be graded from A star to E. The employer set task will also be graded from A star to E. There'll be a separate grade for the occupational specialism, and that will be shown up on the certificate as a pass, merit or distinction. It will also confirm that the student has met the minimum requirements for maths and English, that they've completed the industry placement, as Emma discussed earlier, and a student's overall T-level grade will be worked out from the grades they've achieved on the core component and the occupational specialism. Students who do not pass all elements of their T-level will get a T-level statement of achievement, which will show the elements that they have completed. Next slide, please. So Chichester College Group have launched the following T-level qualifications. We have the T-level in Design, Surveying and Planning for construction. We have the T-level in Digital Production, Design and Development. And we also have the T-level in Education and Childcare. The entry requirements to study one of these T-levels is a minimum of 5 GCSEs, including their maths and English grades 9 to 4 in brackets A star to C. Next slide, please. So you might be thinking, who are T-levels for? Well, they're a great choice if students are aspiring to achieve an advanced level of technical excellence in their chosen career. They may value the opportunity to develop their skills and knowledge both in the classroom and the workplace, or are keen to start experiencing the world of work to develop their employability skills. Next slide, please. So how will T-levels work with other post-16 choices? T-levels will be one of the main choices for students after GCSEs, alongside apprenticeships for students who wish to learn a specific occupation on the job. A-levels, obviously, for students who wish to continue an academic education. We are currently reviewing post-GCSE qualifications to create a simpler, high-quality system that students, parents and employers will all understand. T-levels will be based on the same standards as apprenticeships, designed by employers and approved by the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, formerly known as the Institute. We expect the total time for a T-level to be around 1,800 hours over the 2 years, including the industry placement. As you can imagine, this is a significant increase on most current technical education courses. This does differ from an apprenticeship, which is typically 80% on the job and 20% in the classroom. Will be more suited to those that know what occupation they want to pursue, want to earn a wage, learn at the same time, and are ready to enter the workforce at age 16. And as we come to the bottom of this slide, you can see that there are several progression opportunities that will be available to our T-level graduates. These include skilled employment, an apprenticeship, for example, high-level apprenticeship or technical training, and higher education. Next slide, please. Now, where students are looking to progress onto higher education, UCAS points will be allocated to the overall T-level grade. So students must achieve at least an overall pass grade to receive UCAS points. So if they receive the lower pass, they will be awarded 72 UCAS tariff points, which would be the equivalent of 3 Ds. And for example, if a student comes out with distinction, they'll get 144 UCAS tariff points, and that'll be the equivalent of one of our A-level students studying 3 A levels and coming out with 3 A grades. Next slide, please. Now, Now we've given you an insight into T-levels, we also want to introduce what we're doing as a provider of transition programs. As an inclusive provider, if a T-level student comes to us and unfortunately don't achieve the entry criteria, they can actually enrol on a one-year study program which focuses on the following 5 core components. So we've got the diagnostic and guidance period, and this will really be to assess the student's capability and support needs in order to tailor their transition program to address these needs. This also helps students to decide which T-level they would like to prepare for in the following academic year. At the heart of the T-levels will be Maths and English, and this will be for students, as I said, do not hold at least a GCSE grade 4 in English and or Maths, and this will be a requirement as part of the study programme. Work experience and preparation to develop the skills, behaviours and attitudes and confidence that will be needed to complete the industry placement. It's really important that we embed those skills in that first year so that they have the confidence to be able to go out in the workplace for a significant period of time. And what also differentiates the transition programme from traditional level 2 vocational courses, for example, is the introductory technical skills. So it's giving students the skills and the concepts to help prepare the students for the T-level route they wish to progress onto. And then finally, we have pastoral support and personal development. So this is ensuring that we have relevant and meaningful support to address any barriers to education, support emotional and or mental health difficulties, and support the development of study skills, which will be really important moving on to T-levels where there are end-of-year examinations, and reflective and resilient skills. Next slide, please. Now this slide paints the picture of the national rollout of T-levels. So as you can see, from now, autumn 2020, there are 3 pathways currently available and we are delivering all 3 of them. From autumn 21, the pathways become full routes for construction, where we have on-site construction and building services engineering for construction to complete that route, with the design, surveying and planning option as well. We also have 2 additional digital pathways, which is digital business, digital support services to complement digital production, design and development. And then also education stays as 1 pathway for 1 route, but with the health and science pathways that introduce the new health and science route, we'll have healthcare science and science pathways that the students can pick to study. And then in autumn 22, we have expressed an interest already to deliver the business and engineering pathways that will be coming in the very near future, which is really exciting. And then to complete the rollout from autumn 23, we have the introduction of animal care and management, so all of our land-based courses, craft and design, media, broadcast and production, all of our service industries such as hair, beauty, catering. So it's going to really complement the offer and just really open up the opportunities that will be available to students in technical education. Next slide, please. Now, I hope you've all got the postcards that have been sent to you. Really sorry if you haven't received them. The school liaison officers have been exceptionally busy at this time of the year, and we promise that these will be sent out to you in the next week. And essentially the postcard is this slide, and the key area to look at is the key. So everything highlighted with blue, these are the T-levels that will be available at Chichester College from September 21. Everything highlighted in purple will be all of the T-levels available for students to study from September 21 at Crawley College. And then everything highlighted in pink, as you can see, it comes as a health and science route, 2 pathways available there, health and healthcare science from September 21. As you can see, we've highlighted that these are subject to change, so our recommendation would just be to keep an eye on our individual websites for any updates. Next slide, please. Thank you very much indeed. We really do appreciate your time this afternoon for listening to our presentation. Next slide, please. And now we'd like to open the floor for any questions that I'm sure you have, and we'll be very keen to answer those over the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Great, thank you guys for that. That was great, lots of information there. We do have a few questions going on. Emma, I'm going to come to you first, is that okay?
Hi there, Rachel.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so we've had a couple of questions that are quite similar. One of them is regarding, are students expected to find their own placements, or is it something that maybe the college helps with?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. We do encourage students to do their own research to find employers for their placements. However, we are working on a bank of employers that are prepared to support our students. So it is, you know, it's a two-pronged attack. We have a bank of students as well as encouraging our students to find their own placements. It's all part of their employability skills. But, you know, we've got some really brilliant employers on board, ones that are willing to do the whole process of, you know, writing their job descriptions, interviewing the students. So it'll give the students a fantastic opportunity. Thank you.
Lovely. Couple more for you, Emma.
Okay.
So do students get paid on their placement?
No, that's down to the discretion of the employer. So ordinarily, no. But if the employer wishes to support them with lunch money or travel costs, then that's absolutely up to them.
Great. Let's have a little look. So what support will the students get from, one, the employer side, and two, from the CCG colleges?
Okay, so first of all, the role of the industry placement officer is key to all of this, to support the students. We will be their first point of contact along with their student tutor. So, you know, they've got lots of support. So if it's with regards to the actual placement themselves, we're on call to help them out wherever we can. In terms of in the workplace, they'll be assigned either a mentor or a supervisor. Now that could be an apprentice, or it could be, you know, someone that's working their way up through the company that will just, you know, take them under their wing and support them in their placement. They will be treated like an employee. You know, it's very different to a work placement. They will be working on live projects. So they will be, you know, it's all very well structured.
Perfect. And just before you go, I've got a couple that are just popping through now. So is the placement arranged at the beginning of the course?
Right, so we are, because of COVID, we are looking to send our students out from spring, because that's really how it's worked with our employers. If the student found a placement and they wanted to go out from say half term, yes, they can do that. But certainly here at Crawley, with my digital cohort, I'm working on sending them out in spring so that they've got some core technical skills before they go out to the employer.
Perfect.
Sorry, Rachel.
No, Vicky, go on.
I think that's also recognising that some of the young people we're working with have been out of education for 6 months and getting back into the swing of learning and developing the skills that employers are looking for so that they can transition and be successful. It's also really important that we give them that confidence, so that when they go out, they're ready to engage in that placement and take the best from it.
Great. Last one for you, Emma. Have the big employers in those connected industries said that they will start putting T-levels into their desirable requirement for job applications?
They're looking into it. I mean, T-levels are still very new, so it is about getting the word out to employers. But the employers, I've spoken to some quite large global companies in the Crawley area, and they are very keen, especially with the downturn in industry, and especially in this area. So they're very keen to take this on board, as this is sort of a bit like, you know, try before they buy type of attitude, that, you know, they can have a student with them for a minimum of 315 days. You know, if they want them for longer, they can. So it gives them a great opportunity. You know, it's very much moulding the workforce of the future. So yes, they are on board with it.
Great. We do have a couple more questions that are actually aimed at you again, Emma.
Okay.
So what if they have started the course but they're unable to find a placement?
That's where we would come in and support them to find a placement. We would ensure that they did have a placement to go on. We would not let a student, you know, continue with the course without a placement. That, you know, they wouldn't be thrown off the course, but we would make sure that they had a placement to go on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you.
Okay, so some of the questions here, again, we've got some that are repeated, so I'm going to try and answer everyone's, but they're probably going to be aimed at a mixture of Vicky and James, so I'll let you two battle that out who wants to answer them. So one of them is, I know obviously you talked through the different T levels that are available, but are there a variety of T levels that students can apply for? Do you think there's enough?
I don't know whether, Rachel, that question was parallel to kind of A levels. So whether a student would select, when students select A levels, they might do 3 or 4 A level different subjects, whereas the T level is one program in itself. So they would study the core and then they would specialise with one of the pathways that James and Emma shared on one of the slides. So from that perspective, it's different to an A level programme of study. It would be the T level in digital, and then it would be the specialist pathway that they elect to study as part of that in their second year. Because of the size of the T levels, they're equivalent to the guided learning hours for 4 A levels. So you couldn't do more than one in a study programme.
Great. Just connected to that, we do have a question of, can students choose their specialism / pathway when they're on the course?
James will jump in and tell me if I'm wrong. In an ideal world, we expect that students have an IAG at the beginning of their journey so that they will be able to select their pathway from their point of enrolment on the beginning of their 2-year programme, because then everything builds up from there in terms of the technical skills and so on. So I would expect in September next year, if students were studying on the new construction ones that we're offering, that they knew they wanted to progress onto a level 3 carpentry and joinery programme, which is why they were selecting that T level, because it had the skills and the competencies in that they were interested.
Perfect. So what happens if students don't achieve their overall grade of the pass, merit or distinction? Do they have to redo the 2 years, or is there something in place to support them with that?
James, I think you answered that as part of your presentation. Do you want to clarify that detail?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, there could be 2 answers to that question. So if it is the core content, so there's 2 papers, paper A, paper B. So these are summative assessments sat in the summer series of year 1, inclusive of the employer set project. They are graded from A star to E. If a student achieves, say, for example, a B in paper A, but they get a U in paper B, they will have the opportunity to retake the examination. But I must note that they will have to retake both examinations in line with the guidance and the specifications from the awarding organisations, and obviously the highest grades will be counted. If it's with regards to the occupational specialism, because of the way that the assessment is conducted synoptically, the way that the students will be supported and guided through to that actual assessment process, we are very confident that students, once they get to that assessment, that they'll be in a position where we know that they can achieve at least the pass criteria. So for us, as Vicky said earlier, it's important that we are identifying very early on that, although students might have the entry criteria, that they are on the most appropriate study programme. If not, obviously we need to identify that quickly and signpost and provide the right support to ensure they are on the right study programme.
Great, thank you, James. So another couple of questions we've got is, people really want to know what's the difference between a T level and an apprenticeship. I know, Vicky, you touched on the difference between an A level, but what's the difference between a T level and apprenticeship and a T level and a vocational? Like, what's the main differences?
Okay, so we can see in the future that there'll probably be 4 progression pathways that young people would follow at level 3. One of them would be selecting A levels, and we've talked about that briefly. The other option would be to select a vocational technical qualification, which will be the traditional qualifications that people might be familiar with, like the BTEC extended diplomas or the National Foundation certificates. The biggest difference is the volume of work experience and work placement that the students will be doing, and the structure of assessment. So I know James and Emma shared the structure of the T-level qualification, and I think that's probably, for me, the biggest one. So if you are doing a study programme, which would be the BTEC qualification, you would do your units and so on and so forth, but you may only do 2 or 3 weeks of block placement for work experience, depending on the qualification you're studying. Whereas the T-level, 20% of the qualification is placement. So 80% of the T-level is that theory and delivery work in college, and then 20% on placement for those 45 days or 315 hours that Emma and James reflected earlier. That for me is the biggest difference, is that opportunity to apply the learning and knowledge, those technical skills into the workplace as part of the qualification.
Perfect. Anything you want to add, James? Are you happy with that answer?
Yeah, I think Vicky summed that up perfectly. I
Perfect.
couldn't say that better myself.
The only thing I will add, Rachel, is just I said there were 4 pathways: A levels, vocational technicals, T levels. The 4th one is obviously an apprenticeship pathway. I think one of the questions that popped in was about the difference between a T level and an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
The apprenticeship is 80% in the workplace, 20% doing your learning, which might be in college or might be blended. So the T level is almost the opposite delivery model for that qualification.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Thank you so much, Vicky. Quite a simple one. Can students go to uni with a T level?
The simple answer is yes. However, there is some detail underneath that. So there are a significant number of universities who have said that they will accept T levels for entry in 2022, which when the first successful T level graduates will be completing their qualifications. But we do know there's still some uncertainty that's been in the TES over recent weeks, with some of the Russell Group universities still making a decision. We do know that 5 of the universities within that cohort of universities will accept students with a T level based on what they know about them so far. But I think there's probably still some trepidation because it is first month of delivery. We know what the specs look like, we know what the assessments look like, but we don't quite know what the students are going to look like when they've finished in terms of the skills, the level of content that they will have studied and so on. So I think there are some universities that are being a bit more trepidation than others in their decision making. But that's a personal reflection. So some of it is fact based on what's been in the press, and the rest of it is just a personal reflection on working with the qualification in preparation this year.
Great. Thank you, Vicky. There's been a couple of questions as well about what schools can actually do to promote the T level. So if you're okay, guys, I might just take this one over quickly.
Yeah, do.
Please jump in, Sharon and Holly, if I've missed out anything at all. But obviously at the moment, everything's quite virtual. So myself, Holly and Sharon will be doing recorded assemblies where we can explain it. If you feel like you have students within your class, within the school that really want to have a live Q&A session, we're more than happy to do that. If we get any resources from Vicky or James at all, we'll make sure that we send that on to you guys as well. But if you do have anything kind of personalised that you want us to accommodate, we're more than happy. Just send us an email over and we'll be more than happy to do that. Did that answer everything, Sharon? Give me a nod if I did. I can see you. Cool, great. So some other questions we've got is when can students start applying for a T level?
Well, I suppose they could start applying now, Rachel. There are some T levels that are already live on the websites, and if they've got an apply now button on, they could probably do that. We are in the process of moving to a new management information system across Chichester College Group. So I think there are a couple of courses on some campuses where the apply now button won't go live until our information days in October. So for people on the call who aren't aware, because of the COVID situation and keeping everybody safe, throughout the month of October, we'll be doing some information events online that will be live streamed from all of our colleges, and they will also be recorded so that we are able to put them on the website for people to watch at a later date. So there will be some general introduction to college and the support we can offer sessions. There will be some tailored input on T levels, and they will also be coming from our other curriculum areas as well that will give you a good flavour of the other courses on offer alongside the T level. So I would probably say from, you'll correct me on my dates if I'm wrong, Rach, but the week beginning the kind of 11th, 12th of October maybe is probably when all of the courses will be live, because that's when those information events start. Yeah,
great. Okay, so we've got some regarding transition programs. So if we're looking at the entry requirement for the transition courses, what are the entry requirements and how can we maybe support those students that need a little bit more help with their writing, their English, their maths, for example?
So the entry criteria at the moment is we're asking for students to have grade 3s, at least 4 GCSEs. Obviously, if they have maths and or English, that would be advantageous, but certainly we would be still accepting students that haven't quite achieved. And the way we've designed the delivery of the transition programme, because it's a very different framework to the T level, we've ensured that not only do they have GCSE Maths and or English delivery from the GCSE department, but there's also extra timetabled Maths and English delivered by the curriculum to really contextualise the learning, to give them that extra support, to ensure they have obviously the confidence going into the examinations, and some of them have already been entered into the November resits this year. So, you know, obviously we're really keen for students to achieve and progress onto the T level, and you know, for us that's the criteria that we feel best fits students coming in at that level.
Great, thank you, James. Vicky, did you want to add anything? Are you happy?
There's a question that's just popped in from Toby to say, would doing a transition year ultimately lead to a 3-year course? We did think long and hard about whether we would package it so it could be a 3-year programme for learners, but recognise that actually for some learners, once they've completed the transition year, T levels may not be what they're aspiring to do because they were uncertain when they started it, and they might have had additional experiences which have changed that. So from one perspective, yes, you could view it as a 3-year programme, so it would be transition followed by the 2 years of T level if that's the trajectory that the learners were on. But actually that transition could also be a really good grounding opportunity for learners to really identify what it is they want to do if they're unsure and they haven't had the opportunity to explore progression pathways fully before coming into college.
Perfect. Another question here we've got, where can staff members, schools find out more about the differences between this year's digital computing courses and the next year courses in the digital business and digital support?
James, we can probably send out the course flyers to the participants of this call, can't we?
Yeah, that's not a problem. We've got some course information that we can send you all right away to give you the essential information that you need to know to help share with prospective students so they can make an informed decision. But also, as already mentioned by the school liaison officers, we do have virtual events coming up which will obviously give more information and detail around those courses that will be available from September 21. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that would be really, really helpful. Thank you, James. So obviously you touched upon it's quite a detailed course. So people just want to know, is it Monday to Friday, 9 till 5? What's the college day looking like?
James, do you want to take one?
Yeah, for T levels, it's full time, you know, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, term time only. You know, and obviously,
unless your placement is during holiday time, in which case we'd be advocating because it's meant to be a real work experience.
Exactly that.
During those times.
That's right. So obviously we do have flexibility with the placement, and our curriculum will meet obviously the student and employer's needs. So if they turn around to us and say, look, we can offer you a block placement for a month, 2 months, then obviously we'd adapt and accommodate that accordingly. Where our delivery has changed slightly with COVID-19, we do have a mixed approach, a blended learning approach. So we have up to 75% of the time, which is face-to-face delivery in the college classrooms, and 25% of the time through remote learning. And during these first 6 weeks, students are equipped with the skills to be able to work from home and learn early on how to use things like Microsoft Teams and the use of Moodle, CCG Online, our Moodle platform. So, you know, we've got a good kind of blend for students to, you know, have that in their classroom time with their lecturer and that support that they need, but also that independent time and the independent self-study that we're trying to encourage. You know, very much like A levels, you know, there will be the time within their timetable they're expected to go away and research and, you know, prepare for the next lesson, look into content that they've just been delivered. So it's really important that we're embedding those skills early on.
Great, thank you, James. Just touching back, I've got a question just back on the transition. So would doing a transition year ultimately lead to a 3-year course? So maybe if you could talk about that and the funding as well.
So I think, sorry, go on, James.
I can do the first bit. I might need Vicky to chip in on the funding aspect, but certainly the transition year, as Vicky mentioned earlier, if a student completes all of those 5 core components, they've got their maths and English, they've done their work experience, they've covered all the introductory technical content. We have obviously pastoral support, one-to-ones, tutorials that we deliver to them throughout the year. And going on to the T level, you know, essentially they are committing to another 2 years. You know, so for us, it's really important that they achieve and progress if that's their intention and they're still keen to pursue that. But, you know, obviously when we come towards that point of, you know, we're starting to think about progression, you know, we'll be going in and talking to students to make sure they've got the support they need and information, advice and guidance to make those decisions depending on where they are at that point in time.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in there to clarify the query that's just popped in that's attached to transition as well, which is about when students choose a transition course, do they choose a particular industry pathway or is it a generic program? They choose a specific industry pathway. So if they're interested in going into construction, they would do the construction transition. If they're interested in digital, they would do the digital transition. So there's a transition program attached to each T-level subject cluster.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And if, for example, a student does pick construction, the way we've designed the program, the students will get a taster of each discipline. For example, they'll get an opportunity to work with bricklaying, carpentry and joinery, electrical, plumbing, and also touch on some of the design, surveying and planning elements. And what it's designed to do is to give students an opportunity to sort of get a feel for each discipline, but just enough to whet their appetite, but to see actually what is it that you don't really like and what is it that you're really passionate about and want to go on and study for the next 2 years and potentially go on to go into a career with as well.
Perfect, thank you so much. We'll just take this last question. I think that might be all we have time for, but the last question was just with regards to the childcare course, how is there quite a lot of work experience compared to the other courses? How does that work?
There is. That's another really good question. And at the moment, and this is the only T level that is really different from any other T level. The current specification outlines that students must complete a minimum of 750 hours industry placement, and the rationale behind that is to ensure that students can obtain their license to practice to go and work in industry. However, obviously in light of COVID, we've had some challenges, and the DfE have been really flexible with our approach for this academic year. So although we plan for 750 hours, if students only achieve a minimum of 415 hours, they will still be awarded their certification and can progress on to whatever destination they intend to go on to.
Perfect. Thank you so much, James. I think that's all the questions we have. If we didn't cover your questions, please feel free to obviously email any of the email addresses that are on the screen, or of course you can send any messages over to myself, Holly or Sharon. So I'll hand back over to you, James, just to say your goodbyes. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your time this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation and can take something away. Our contact details are on the screen, so please feel free to get in touch if you have any other questions. Hope you have a great rest of the week and look forward to hopefully hearing from you, seeing you in the future. Take care and all the best.